So at 24 years old, you've done so far a few $1 million a year, every year in sales on your own.
Is if you're a girl or a guy, like everybody stays with their parents, even
Yeah,
if you're like 25 over there, right?
that's
So
true.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, so you can't go party at night. Your mom and dad won't let you. So the drop they're not gonna buy. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like I would just let them go. But like basically I would have to give like 15 pitches to close one, like 15, 16, which
Yeah.
is like ridiculous. Like it's a pretty big number.
All right, Sonny, welcome to the pod, man. Happy to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. So most people probably don't know who you are, right? So you're my baby brother first and foremost. Uh, but I wanted to have you on because you've been doing. So you're 24 now, right? You're 24. You're about to be 25 this year. Is that right?
Yeah, in
Okay.
September.
So at 24, you did a couple of things that I think most 24-year-olds have not been able to do yet, and I think it's like pretty incredible, right? So despite some of the advice that we gave you and everything else, you found success. And I think the way you found success is really remarkable. So at 24 years old, you've done so far a few $1 million a year, every year in sales on your own. You bought yourself a Model Y this year. You got yourself a house 2 years ago, and you bought your mom a Porsche.
Yeah.
Oh, and you got yourself a little Rolex too. Material things, they don't really mean that much, but I think it's just like a small way of indicating like how hard you've worked and how hard that we see you work. And I think that lots of people would probably benefit from that. So originally, you came from, you were born here, right? So you were born in San Antonio, and
Yeah.
then your parents left to India when you were 8, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you came back. How old were you when you came back?
I came back when I just turned 18, like a
Okay.
month after my birthday.
All right. So when you were in India, what was that shit like for you? Like first, what was it like for you when you first moved there? And then like dealing with that shit. And then after that, coming to America, like what was that experience for you?
It was terrible moving there. Oh my God. Yeah, it was so bad because my Hindi, our language, it wasn't that good at all. And I don't know, I just couldn't speak that much, and I was just getting a little, picked on here and there. It was
Yeah.
funny. So like, I had the situation where this guy was like, "Hey, go say this word over there. It's a funny word." I go say that word, and boom, I get slapped. I'm like, "Shit, that was a
What was the
bad word,
word? What
wasn't it?"
was the word? What was the word?
Bulla. I know. And that motherfucker was my cousin, my faraway cousin, punched me. And I see him like a year and a half, 2 years later. And then we find out we're like faraway cousins, and then we're cool. And I'm like, okay, fuck it.
Yeah.
But
So that was your
yeah,
first experience when you go to India, like real early on.
like it was I think that's my first memory that I remember of me being in, like there was a Jamaat Khana, there's a garden over there.
Yeah. This is in
There's a
Hyderabad, right?
mosque. Yeah, it's in Hyderabad.
Yeah.
So that was one of the memories, but like it was really different because I started, I skipped classes. I went to from second grade, I went to fourth grade, and I was probably like the youngest person in class. And it
Yeah.
was just like kind of getting hard for me to catch up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But basically, just being in India, you learn how hard it is up there. Like you see how everybody's been struggling and working so hard, and you see like an average family in India makes about $150 to $200 a month. That's about 10,000 rupees is what the income is in India.
Yeah. So you guys go from America where you're like doing pretty good out here, right? So I mean, by doing pretty good, I mean it's like the gas station story. Your parents left under really funny circumstances too, right? So they
Yeah,
had a voluntary departure, so they end up leaving the country.
basically getting deported.
Basically, right? And
Yeah,
so and your dad had this whole vision where it was like, I'm gonna get to India. I got these 3 stores set up, and I'm gonna get paid while I'm in India. Like my family's gonna cash it out big time. when you get to India, one, you start getting bullied and shit. The 3 stores here go under, right? Like
Right away, yeah.
right away. So you're now in India fucking figuring this shit out again, right? So you went from living
Yeah.
a life in America, thinking you're gonna live like a king in India, to now being like, oh fuck. What's
Yeah, yeah. So we were assuming when we come to India, we're basically going to be like, live like millionaires, because when you have like gas stations and you have some money coming
yeah, yeah,
in,
yeah.
you get deported and you're like, yeah, it's all right. It's my retirement. I love India, that's
Right,
what you think.
right.
You go up there and then somehow stores go down. It's like then it's like shit. So we were basically we got to a point where we're like kind of broke. We got pretty broke where I remember from like 4 years old to 10 years old being like the most spoiled brat ever. So I think that's what kind of made me what I am today, because going back to India, we kind of getting to a point where we don't have like money to buy like, a nice jacket, or like, let's not go to the, like, let's not go eat over here because it's like this much, or, just stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like that changing from 100 to 0, it's like, it's a big, big change. And
Right.
I'm used to like getting whatever the hell I wanted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure,
And
for sure. So, okay, so you're there now, and then, okay, so in the beginning, it's a little rough for you. And
mhm.
then how long does it stay like that for you? Like, how long was it when you were like in India, you're like, oh my God, these motherfuckers are going to kill me out here. Like, it's tough. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I'm getting picked on or whatever. How long does that last? And then when does that kind of change?
So I was like, when I came from America, I was a little chubby, right? I so not only that I didn't know that the Hindi, it was that too. But that happened till I was from 10 to like 15 years old, 16 years old. I was like kind of a little obese, right?
Yeah,
And then when high school got done, like 10th grade,
yeah,
um, I right away was like, okay, I'm gonna go to college. I don't think nobody knows me there. Let's just
yeah.
try to have a restart. You have 3 months, and in 3 months, let's just try to transform yourself. So like I started playing table tennis, ping pong, and I played for I played for 2 3 months, and I lost like 60 pounds because it was a summer break. It was me playing
Yeah.
like 8 hours a day. I was taking coaching from like one of these the father of the number one she was a state champion and a national champion, his daughter. So his father was my coach as well as like 10 other people's coaches.
Okay.
So I got into table tennis a lot and I lost weight, and then I went to like, college, and then right away, like I
In
felt like,
college over there, you go to college right after 10th grade, right? So after 10th
sure.
grade, like your junior year in America would be considered college over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. So you're at this time you're taking table tennis really seriously.
Mhm.
I know you were taking pool really seriously too. I know you're shooting pool a lot and snooker a lot too. I know you were taking all 3 of those really seriously. How seriously were you taking schoolwork and all that shit?
Nah, I wasn't taking schoolwork seriously that much, I think. Well, like when I was through 5th and 10th grade, right? When I was like kind of getting picked on a little bit here and there, I was like spot on when it came to like studying and stuff like that. I didn't get into ping pong till after 10th grade, but I would always play pool
Yeah.
because that's what me and dad and we've been
Hmm.
doing since we've been in America. Just playing pool. We used to have a gas station with a pool table in it, so I
Hmm.
always loved like playing pool. So when I went to India, and then when mom said, "Hey, your pocket money's like $2 or $1 a day," and I'm like, "Shit,
So
this
wait,
isn't
so
anything."
that was your pocket money? So your mom went to like, here's a dollar, or here's $2, and you can do whatever you want with it. But anything after that, it's all on you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like when I got to like 14 or 15 years old, like I didn't even have like that was my gas money. That was like I'm driving here and there and like it's gone. So I don't have money for anything. So
Yeah.
I started playing pool a lot, snooker. That's
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
And I used to play with these guys that are like 10, 15 years older than me because I was like 15, 16 years old. And I kind of started kind of making that
Wait,
like
were
a
you were
living at
you
it.
were you intimidated when you were in the pool hall? Because I remember playing pool with you, and I always thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And I remember you when you were like young, when you were like a baby, right? So when I came to India to visit you, that's when you were still a chubby little kid that I thought was just like the cutest, most adorable little brother, you know what I mean? But instead you were obviously going through your own shit. But it was the funniest thing to see you like wearing your glasses that are like falling off and saying like playing with kids that are like 15, 16 years old when you were like 8, 9, 10 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
You've been doing that since you were really, really young. So when you
yeah.
started, like, as you continued that, were you intimidated saying, hey, I'm going to go play with these older kids. I'm going to learn from these older kids. I want to compete with these older kids?
So like what was kind of happening at first is like I started that bug of gambling because that's all I would do like from like 10, 11 years old
Yeah.
to like, you know, till I was in India. Like I would gamble like every other day, every day.
Playing
So
pool.
yeah, playing pool. So dad would play pool with his friends for money, and then it's like a huge professional table, right? So
Yeah.
there's like 4 or 5 tables and one of them's empty. So since I'm a kid, they'll just give me 2, 3 balls that are already put in, and they're like, okay, you could just practice here and there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just practiced on that, and then I was like, okay, I like this, like just this vibe or something like that. It just looks like the big boys club, you know, like
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So on top of that is where all the 25-year-olds and you know not all the 40, 50-year-olds, but a little bit younger people were playing. So
Yeah.
that's where I started gambling. Yeah, but I would get pretty intimidated by these guys at first because like I would at first I would have like let's say $10 and I would gamble. I would lose every time for like, you know, every time I try to save money and gamble, I would lose. For my birthday, mom gave me money, I'll save that, I was losing that. So like
Yeah.
everything they gave me money, I was just losing, losing, losing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so, you know, this game is of points, right? So if you're that much better than me, so this ain't fair. Like if you're winning by 30 points, you need to give me 30 points so that it's, you know, fair. So
Yeah.
then these guys start giving me some points, and then after that, I started gambling with these guys and started winning. So like
So you were
anytime,
saying, okay, so at this age, you were like, all right, I'm a little bit intimidated. I'm clearly coming in at a disadvantage, but fuck it, I'm going to try. And then you realized, okay, wait a minute. There's like a disparity here because they obviously have more skill or more years of practice or whatever. So you're like, yo, let's cut a deal. Let's figure it out where it's fair for both of us and competitive for both of us. Right? Okay.
yeah,
All right. It's cool.
yeah, and
So
just my goal would be just to be a little bit nicer and sweeter, and just you know just try to get a little bit of an extra point or advantage out of that. You know what I mean? Or
yeah,
try to play upon their ego. I'm like, really, you're gonna do this to a kid? Like, come on, you know, or something like that.
yeah.
You know,
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah, and you know, a lot of these times when you win, these guys don't pay you. They're like, yeah, I'm not gonna pay you.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm
what'd you
like,
do when they didn't pay you?
well, that happens. Well, that's just the name of the game. When you were starting to win, you're like, okay, shit, you know, like when I'm 14, 15, and these guys are so big, everybody's like a gangster up there.
Yeah.
So what I started doing after that is I had this guy that would just stand with me. He's
Yeah.
really known in town, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody knows him. So I told him, hey, if we gamble, this is your money, not my money, okay? Tell them it's your money.
He was a big guy. He was like a big, strong guy or something.
Yeah, like he was a bigger dude, but it wasn't just in India. It's not about how big you are. You could be like a really tiny dude, but if you like get into a fight, there's like 200 people coming with a skinny dude, and this big dude's like, what the
Yeah,
hell, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's really about who has more
Manpower.
manpower behind
Yeah,
them. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
then what I would do with these guys is I would go out and smoke hookah with these guys, like shisha,
yeah,
and I would just pay for the bills every time, you know?
yeah.
So
Okay, so that's okay. So you're like, all right, wait. So one, now you start finding a way to win, and then the next problem you run into is, man, these motherfuckers ain't paying me when I win because I'm so small or I'm so young or whatever. So you're like, all right,
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna win over some gangsters that can say that I'm playing on behalf of their money, and so when I win, they have to pay me because they think it's going to that guy, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So you solved that problem. So I guess so during this time, I'm guessing your confidence levels are going up. I'm guessing now you're
Yeah,
starting to feel
yeah.
more.
Like I was really skilled when I was like 14. I was
Yeah,
like actually skilled to a point where I could beat like someone who's 25 who's actually good. Like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like because like regardless of what the thing is, I've been playing pool since I was like 10 or 11 or 9 or whatever the case is. But like since I was 5, I used to play Yahoo pool. Back then it was a big thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
there
yeah.
were there were like over millions of people, like over 100,000 people in there, and in there I was like, and I was in the world rankings because I would do these weird shots, like this is
I think you still do some of those weird, some of those weird. Yeah,
those
yeah,
bank shots and shit
yeah.
like that, the weird
Mhm,
shots, those angles that people don't
right.
see, like you know.
Right.
stuff like that. I used to do that on a computer when I was really small, and I don't know, it felt like there was no boundary set for me. Like since I've been small, like I've been exposed to a lot of things, like being at a gas station when you're like pretty small. There's like all sorts, like the people that come through. I've seen
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
America, I've seen my parents got robbed on a gunpoint. You
Yeah.
know, so
So
I've seen.
our mom, and then so yeah, I mean our parents have gotten robbed. I mean our so my mom and your dad are siblings, and your and then their brother was murdered in one, right? So
Yeah.
um yeah, and so in fact that's how I think my dad even got your when your dad had a convenience store in San Antonio, he sold it to my dad after that had happened, because I think he was just like, man, I got to get out of this town. I got to get maybe like reconsider what I'm doing here, because he was, I think, really, really affected by that. So yeah, I think all those parents in like the '90s, late '80s, '90s that were coming here that had these stores were like going through some crazy shit, or dealing with a lot of crazy shit. So you got to see some of that, being like the having parents that are involved and kind of taking you there. So yeah, you saw some crazy shit at the stores.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have.
So okay, so you end up kind of experiencing that. You end up kind of seeing, like, so you're talking about kind of how you started getting your confidence, right? So what ends up happening in India where you're like, all right, like now I'm feeling like I'm secure in who I am, and like
So
not gonna get rattled.
So that situation happened when I was playing table tennis, and I was playing like, state level. I was like, let's say top state 15 or 10, within
Yeah,
that range, not like number one. But whatever the case is, I was like, okay, if you're gonna do something that's like this intense, like, on a professional level, it's really hard to um, like if you really want to do it, you're going to have to commit your whole time to it. And I was like, okay, what does the world number one of table tennis, how much is he worth? Or like, how much money does he have, or something like that?
yeah,
Um, so you see that, and they're not getting paid shit. Like the state number one got paid $400 fucking. I'm like, fuck. Like, like $400 for a fucking, I'm like, dude, like,
yeah.
let's
And you
go
put
play,
in a lot of hours. That's a lot of fucking work. If you break it down from like, it's like hours and time ratio to payout, it's like maybe like 20 cents an
No,
hour.
no, yeah, yeah. I wasn't playing for the money though. I was first. It started off for the weight. Then I started liking it because it's competition, and I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
It's like you learn and you get better. But then, right after that, I was like, okay, I need to find something where I can make some money. So while I was gambling in a pool, I found this guy that likes to, go out and go to clubs and go party and something like that. He's like 4 years older than me, or 3 years older than me. So he's like, bro, you know so many people. Why don't we organize a party together? So I
Yeah.
was like, what do you mean? Like, what kind of party? He's like, well, we could do like a day party for anybody that's like, like under 30, under 25. So between 15 and, 25 range.
Yeah.
And at a nice club with a DJ, all that stuff, and serve alcohol and do all that shit.
Yeah.
And, and everybody
As a
pays.
24-year-old now, do you think you'd want to go party with 15, 16-year-old? That seems like such a bad, like such a bad idea. You know what I mean?
No,
Yeah.
no, man. That was the scene. That was the scene just 6, 7 years. I'm talking about like 8 years ago or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
day
Yeah. Yeah.
parties for like someone that's like, because the thing is, if you're a girl or a guy, like everybody stays with their parents, even
Yeah.
if you're like 25 over there, right?
That's
So
true.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so you can't go party at night. Your mom and dad won't let you. So the girls can't do the same shit either. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
best time is in the day. You know what I mean? Like on a
Yeah.
Saturday and something like that. So we did it on a Saturday.
Right.
But so what happened is he's like, okay, let's do this party together. And this place's name is called Ten Lounge, is what we decided upon. And he brought in a partner. So now we have his friend who's a 33, him who's 33, and me
Yeah.
who's 33. And I'm like, wait, am I getting hoed over a little bit here?
Yeah.
So I have a friend as well, and I told him, hey, you know what? How about we put a party under your name as well? You know what? You don't have to invest nothing. You could just tell everybody, bro, I'm throwing a party. You can look all cool and shit like that. You know.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay. And I was like, okay, so just tell these other guys that you're a 25% partner. I'll go ahead and put the money for you. I'll give you some cheese on top. So
Yeah.
that way I could have 50%, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wait, what was it? Yeah, 50%,
Right.
50%.
Right.
So whatever the case, we organized the party, we threw the party, and there were like 250 to 300 people that showed up.
This is your
So
first party that you end up throwing. So I guess that's a success, right?
it was a success. It was a funny part in there. So whenever you're a young kid trying to make some money,
Yeah.
there's always people trying to like fuck you over or try to not like rob you, but put
Take
you in a
advantage of you.
situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll say that, hey, you won 50,000 from this kid, or you hustled this kid for 20,000 rupees, which is like 400 $500. You know
Yeah.
what? I want 2,000 now, or something like that, some weird shit like that, right?
Yeah.
So, and there's been plenty of those where, but they never get paid. But
Yeah.
whatever. So in my party, my partner, the made up partner, he told some people that I'll give you a free entry, right? So these guys come in with a couple people have sandals and shit, and I'm like, and they're not looking all proper, and I'm like, no, I can't let these guys in. There's no way I can let them in because then these girls won't come back.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit, there's no way. They're gonna tease someone. They're gonna touch someone. I'm gonna get screwed. First of all, I'm not even allowed to have a party with alcohol in it,
Right.
And I didn't even
Right.
drink alcohol back, I didn't
Right.
drink alcohol back then too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so what happened is we didn't let those 5 people in, and later what happened is someone told me to come upstairs.
Yeah.
So I go upstairs, and there's about 60 people waiting over there, saying, "You didn't let us in. We're gonna beat the fuck out of you right now." So they're like, "You have to let us all in, and you
Yeah.
have to." They're basically taking over. They were taking
Yeah.
over the whole thing, and they're like some gangsters. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Shit, man, I'm so fucked. I don't
Yeah.
know what to do right now,
What'd
right?"
you, what'd you do?
So I had a friend. His name's Ali. He, when I was walking upstairs, he walked a little bit upstairs with me,
Yeah.
right? So when I got up the stairs, it's like the club's underground, by the way. It's like
Okay.
under, like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But when I got upstairs, all these guys in broad daylight, I'm like, shit, they already had me surrounded. So my friend saw that. He ran downstairs, and we always have like security. So I have like a couple people with good status, like
Yeah.
some like
Some of
these
your
guys
own
were.
local gangsters. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. The
Yeah.
problem is religion is not a big thing in India. Like everybody's really,
At the time,
open and
I
nice.
think now it might be a little bit different, but I think at the time it might have been. And Hyderabad's always been pretty good about having the two,
Yeah,
having all the religions mixed easily.
yeah, because there's like so many Muslims up there.
Yeah.
There's so many Hindus.
Yeah.
So like this gangster was a Hindu gangster, right? Which
Yeah.
there's so many of them. Then this guy that was downstairs was a Muslim gangster. So I'm like, oh my God, this won't work good, right? So whatever. My friend ran downstairs to the two guys that I had over there, and they came upstairs, and he ran upstairs, and like this happened in 30 seconds, and they said, okay, whoever touches Sunny first, I'm gonna fuck your mom's up, right? he said, he said, he, if you, he said, if you, in Hindi, he's like, "Saki maa ko chodunga." He said, I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh shit. Oh my God. So
No, fuck
except,
that shit. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, shit. So the Hindu gangsters, there's 70 chelas, which is like the sidemen, right? There's
Yeah.
one big politician's son, right? He's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
gangster. So he's sitting on like this rock, like, like on a, like just on a pavement or whatever, like
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
box. So when this guy, this gangster comes and said, I'm gonna fuck your mom's up,
Yeah.
everybody was like, eh, and then except for that big gangster. Big gangster was like, yo,
Yeah.
who the fuck said that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the the big gangster saw this guy, and
Yeah.
they're like, you don't know who the fuck you're fucking with. He's like, Sunny tu niche ja. I was like, oh shit, that means go downstairs.
So you're like,
So
okay, cool. You're like, I'm gonna fucking.
I'm trying to see where the other exit is. Fuck this. I was like, shit. So my bouncers didn't want to do shit. I have 8 bouncers over there. Motherfuckers didn't come upstairs, nothing.
Yo,
They were scared.
bouncers, most bouncers, unless if they know that they can beat you up, I don't think are really gonna like. They're not trying to lose their life over $10 or $5 an hour or whatever. You know what I mean? Most of them. I mean, India might be a little different, but
Yeah, I was like, come on, man. These bouncers aren't doing shit. Thank goodness we had these
yeah,
guys.
yeah, yeah,
But,
yeah,
well, thank goodness for my friend, that guy. He really helped me out there.
So
But
you,
that was
okay,
the one time I was gonna get my ass kicked.
you got out of there. You got out of there all right. Like you left unscathed. You know, no one's moms were fucked.
Oh yeah. So what happened is my big gangster got a call saying,
Yeah,
"Hey man, you don't want to talk to that guy like that. You know, just let
yeah,
4 or 5 of those guys in that look proper and the main head honcho in." So
yeah.
they shook they're holding hands, like literally, and fucking walking into the club. And I'm like, okay, get whatever the fuck you want. You know, shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm
Now
not
I
gonna
have
fuck
two.
your mom. I'm gonna fuck you now. Let's go. Hold hands and let's go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Turn it
That
on.
was funny,
Yeah.
but that was what an ending, man.
That's funny,
So,
dude. Okay, so that shit happened, and then fuck me. All right.
after that, I kind of blew up in town. After that, like after that, uh, a lot of people started getting to know me. So like my next party was pretty funny as well. I was at a snooker parlor gambling, and this kid was like, "Hey, man, are you?" And he's from a high school as well. He's like about 16 years old, and
Yeah,
I'm like, he's 15 and a half or 16, and I'm 16 and a half or 17, something like that.
yeah,
So he's like, so it's right before me coming to America, like a year and a half ago.
yeah.
So he told me, "Hey man, are you Sunny Lack? Are you that kid from like Big Bash Entertainments? You know?"
Yeah.
So I was like,
That was the
"Yeah,
name of the company?
Big Bash Entertainments, yeah,
Imagine. Okay. All right.
yeah." So I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Man, let's do a party together. You know, let's throw a party together." He said.
Yeah.
So when you become like the plug in town and stuff like that, you start getting everything at a good price. So then my kind of business became to a point where if someone wants to do a party with me, there's a premium to that as well, because you know
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
get the name connected.
Immediately, just like that, because of this conflict, you getting out of there, you throwing this party, turning out all right, handling that shit, and it was all these fucking gangsters there. All of a sudden, now people want to pay you extra to like come to parties, or they're
No,
willing to pay extra when you want to throw a party to come
no,
in.
no, no, no. So what he said is, let's smoke hookah and shisha, and let's go ahead and partner together.
Okay.
Why don't you be my partner?
Okay.
Now, obviously, when you don't have the same crowd I have, I'm gonna try to see what I could do, but I'm gonna be fair a little bit. So
Yeah.
I told him like, okay, what kind of DJs do you want, and where do you want to do this?
Yeah.
So he told me this place, 10 Downing Street or something like that, right? That was one of the clubs.
Yeah.
So, or Kismet is the club's name. So he's like, hey, I want to do it over here. I want like 4 DJs. And then these are the DJs. They're not that expensive, but the top DJ is this one. And I want, liquor, hookah, and, sodas and Coke and all that shit.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this makes sense. Why don't you find out how much this is going to cost you?
Yeah.
And then I'll find out what I could get it down to, I said. So he comes back to me and says exactly conversion rate from rupees to dollar. He's like 1,40,000 rupees, which is $2,000.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, $2,000 to do this party. I think I think we could go ahead and do it for like 1895. You know what I mean?
Okay.
For
Okay.
1900.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So he's like, okay. So I was like, okay, the way how this is gonna work is out of the 1900, you pay me half, right?
Right.
And then
You
I'll
like
take
the
care of the
hook.
rest.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll take care of the rest.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting the party done in under $1,000 with
Yeah.
the contacts. I still gave him a better deal than what he got,
Yeah.
and then we just threw the party, and then um,
So
you know,
smart. So you knew your value in that moment. You knew that you can negotiate a better deal. You let the fact that you had already established some premium, that you'd already gotten like some clout now onto the name, and you were like, okay, I'm gonna leverage it. Like I have this ability to take this advantage here. I'm not gonna just let it go. I'm gonna take advantage right here where I can take it, where I can where I can seize the opportunity. I'm gonna seize it.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
and then you said you were still gave him a better deal at the end of the day. What do you mean by that?
Well, he got an offer for. Well, he found out how much he could get everything down
Yeah.
to get the location, to get all the licensing,
Yeah.
to get like these DJs. The DJs, you could call them, find out how much it is. They're gonna say $300, and he brings it
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
to 250. So he got a discount from the DJ, but like I didn't have to pay the DJs or anything, because like
Got it.
I go out with these DJs and
Yeah.
hang out with them. So I was like, okay, so it worked out over there.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's like, but the whole point of me coming to America was I was starting to try to make money, but every time there's like someone trying to mess with you. Like there's always some gangster, there's always this, there's always that.
Yeah.
So dad was like, why don't you just go to America, try working over there, and maybe it'll work out better.
Okay.
Um,
So you're
so
so you're like so you're 17 years old. Um, so yeah, you're 17 years old. Your English at the time is like very, very bad, right? Like I would say it's like
Yeah.
half or a quarter of what it is right now, right?
Yeah.
Your Hindi had gotten really good, but your English had gotten really bad, right? Because you'd now
Yeah.
been there for almost 10 years, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I couldn't say it with the same slang or, you know,
Yeah, for sure. So you had that problem, and then so you're struggling now. Like so, you're finding opportunities to make money in India. But you're realizing how fucking competitive it is. Number one, two, you're always having to deal with local fucking gangsters and shit. So you're like, all right, dude, this is getting a little too much. And you're obviously your parents lived in America for like a good 20 years before that. So they and your dad was like pretty Americanized for the most part too. So you had a good understanding that okay, maybe in America there might be something that I can do out here. Your parents hustled out here really hard, even though they're the three stores and the whole plan collapsed. But they built the three stores, so they got somewhere while they were here in the early 2000s and the late 90s. So you're 17 years old. You guys make the plan that okay, because you were a citizen, right? So all your siblings are all citizens. So you decide that your parents decide that okay, it's time for you to go to America. Were you down to go to America? Were you ready to come, or were you like, no, I want to stay in India?
Um, I wasn't really down to come in my head because I wanted to come, yeah, but there was a situation where I felt like since uh since we haven't covered this a little bit, since when we got deported, right?
Yeah,
Dad started drinking a lot,
yeah,
and mom and us, we started kind of getting a little like, you know, semi victimized by like just screaming and doing this and doing
right,
this and doing this and like a
right,
hundred different things.
right.
So me and dad would get into it a lot because sometimes when mom said would get a little disrespected, I get onto him or something like that.
And that's like
So
the culture there is. I mean, it's changing. I think people are getting a lot better about it now. But I think like the idea of like separation, the idea of like resolving disputes, the idea of not like drinking and having like a male dominance, which you used to see a lot more in a lot of families in the early 90s, the 2000s, and the 80s. It's total. I mean, it's changing a lot now, but that wasn't the case for a long time. And I think that, yeah, so I think you guys are going through a lot of that. So when you first went to India, it became tough on, I guess, tough on all the siblings, became tough on your mom, and you couldn't handle it when it got into a situation where it got like there was going to be some conflict or where you felt like your mom was being disrespected in any way. You
yeah,
just didn't sit right with you as like the eldest son, and as a son, you just wanted to do something about it.
yeah. There was a lot of that. So basically, it was just I forgot where we were exactly at.
So I think the decision to come to America.
Mm,
So you're like trying to decide,
yeah.
did you want to come?
So what? So there was times when he was drunk, and he kind of mentioned where, you know, such a burden or something like that, you
Yeah,
know, or something like that to me. And I would obviously never tell him like, you know, how much money I'm making or winning or something like that. I would just kind of keep that to myself. I would always share it to mom. Like
yeah,
there was times when I would just be like, "Hey mom, here's like 5,000 rupees." She's like, "What the hell? Where'd you get this from?" I'm like,
yeah,
"No, that's my money. Here's yours. This is yours. 25,000." She's like, "What the fuck?" You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh shit, yeah,
so we didn't have that much, you know, too much money coming in. So I started like doing that a lot, and mom started being like a little supportive of it because she's like, okay, this kid's trying to do
yeah.
something, right?
And you're not going to school, right? So you're still making your money doing like the parties, like playing pool, hustling, doing that.
Yeah, after college, I didn't show up to college that much. I was like 1/5 of the time.
Okay. Okay. All right. So you're like now 17 years old or 16 years old. You're doing all this. You're 17 years old. You're generating all this income. And then so what happens when you guys say like now it's time for you to come here? Like what was the final?
So exactly what really made it happen was there was a situation where I almost got into trouble with some gangsters where they wanted to whoop my ass like really bad, and these guys are murderers. Okay,
Yeah,
these
yeah,
guys
yeah.
are murderers. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Fuck, this is the worst as it's ever been."
Yeah.
And it was after like a party situation. It was after I had organized a party. I
Yeah.
would never tell my gangsters or any gangsters that, hey, you know, my party makes any money. I'm always saying we're losing money
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So when these guys start to realize, oh shit, you've been making money, you need to pay up, And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to pay you up. And then one of my other friends says, hey, you know, I know someone else that could take care of your gangsters so that your gangsters stop fucking with you. So I'm like, okay, let's go. So I went to these other gangsters that were actually murderers. So it's like, now these guys get into a fight, like really, and they're like trying to take out knives and shit. I'm like, fuck. And then my previous gangster told me, hey, Sonny, you don't know who the fuck these guys are. These guys are fucking scumbags. They're murderers. They're dirty, crazy fucks. You do not want to fuck with them. Tell them to go back home. I'm like, how am I going to tell murderers to go back home? Who I came to tell to, who I brought them over here to make you stop fucking with me because you've been fucking with me. He's like, that doesn't matter. Tell them to go the fuck home, okay? And the reason why I said go the fuck home to my murderers is because to compromise this huge fight of bloodshed and all sorts of things, there was a guy that showed up at 2 a.m. at night in a Mercedes with this Russian model or something like that. He was in a suit, really rich guy.
Yeah.
He gets out of the car and he tells like the non-murderers gangster, like he talks to them, and the non-murderers gangster says, he talks to him like with like as a friend. They're talking like a friend. These guys are talking like friends. And the murderers I came with, which I wasn't trying to do anything, they forced me into coming here. They're like, dude, we have to go. So I'm like, I'm not trying to do no fucking crazy shit.
Yeah.
But these crazy murderers are calling this middle guy, the head honcho that came with this chick, like big brother and like this. I'm like, oh fuck. So I'm actually on the wrong side. I'm actually with someone that doesn't have that much status and someone who probably gets money to like kill someone or something. And I'm like, this is weird, you know?
Yeah.
So
too real.
Yeah. So that happened. And that's where, that's the one time where my dad saved my ass. Because these guys, after the situation, they're like, hey, we know where you live.
Yeah.
So I call mom, and this has never happened in my life. So I called mom, and I told mom that, hey, don't be home. I told dad was at the store. Like, hey, just stay at the store. Don't go home. There's gangsters that are gonna try to come and do something. I'm like, if they do anything, I'm just gonna, it's gonna be crazy.
Right.
So dad got ticked off. So he's like, okay, give me these guys' numbers, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, you're gonna try to call him and say something, and oh my god, like imagine someone beating up my dad in front of me, and I can't, it's just, So dad calls him and he says, hey, what's your name, bro? And he's like, my name's Kalim. Or whatever the name is. Or John, whatever the name is. So, hey, my name's John. So my dad was like, okay, John, here's my cell phone number. Here's my store address. Here's my house number. And here's my house address just in case you fucking miss wherever the fuck you guys are trying to come. It's like, you have all the information you need. From now on, if you call my son, you're gonna be in deep motherfucking trouble.
Yeah.
And dad said that I know the DCP. If you want me to call the DCP, my dad just blocked him.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, I know like the fucking commissioner or some shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, shit. So that worked out, but after that, it was like, it wasn't.
Yeah, and you were obviously getting involved in way too much.
I was already planning like this. Me coming to America was gonna happen like in the next year and a half, right?
Yeah.
And those taunts were coming to me. But after this happened, they're like, okay, let's just go like next week.
Expedite it now.
Just go next week. Fuck
everybody killed. Yeah. You're gonna get your old gangsters killed, your new gangsters killed, your parents. Yeah. So they're like, all right, you got to get the fuck out. Like, let's go. Like, turn things around, but let's start fresh. Let's come here, and there's opportunity in the U.S. and kind of start over, kind of more or less, right? So, walk me through. And again, just to put a little context to everything. So since you've been here, I mean, you've been, successful, not early on, but you got there really, really quickly, busting your ass, doing a lot of different things, a lot of unique things. So you didn't say no to anything. And from what I saw, like early on, it was just like, yes, I'll try this, I'll try this, I'll try this, I'll try this. And then as you kept finding success, you leveraged and moved up and leveraged and moved up. And that's how you started doing like millions of sales individually on your own, door knocking, through phone call, like really door knocking, which nobody really does anymore. I mean, I don't want to say nobody does it anymore, but I thought it was a dying art. But whatever the case is, I just wanted to put it in a perspective. So where you kind of end up. So let's go back to, you get to America. And So now what are your expectations when you come to America? And then what is reality like for you in America?
So my expectations when I went to America was, I had about $500, like $300 that mom gave, and I $300 of mine. So
Mhm.
like that's all that I had. I was like, when I come to America, like I knew I have cousins here. I knew I have a lot of people that I know and stuff like that. But my plan was to like, I've heard my dad say it every time that, hey, I went to America. I did this by myself when I was 16,
You came
17.
with this much money in the pocket.
Yeah, yeah. The story that I hear from so many people, I'm like, fuck, I got to do this too, right?
Right.
So my plan was when I go there, if I have to sleep on the streets, worst case scenario, I'm still not gonna die, right? Like my point is, aside from dying, I was just thinking a worst case scenario that the struggle is gonna be like crazy real. Maybe I won't have a place to stay.
Yeah.
I'll maybe have a little bit of money for food, but as long as I could just get a little bit of my English fixed, if I could save up some money for a car, then then I'm gonna be on the same position. So I figured that for 6 months it's gonna be like a crazy dirty struggle,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But then when I was coming to America, my dad told me like when I reached that, okay, you're gonna be with my brother, which is my chacha, his brother, which is my chacha, and at this motel that he stays at. So so I he came to visit me there too. So
No, I never came. I wasn't.
Kareem Nurgis.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we weren't allowed to come visit you there. But I was.
But yeah, he told
I
him
had
that
something
I don't
going
want.
on. I wasn't like in town, or I had something. I don't think I was in town when they came to visit you. Is what ended
Yeah,
up
yeah,
happening.
I remember he told everybody else. He said that okay, if Sonny's gonna come stay with me, he can't meet anybody else, like
Yeah.
any other family or something like that for
Yeah.
now till
So
I get him.
your cha my mama, right? So so basically our uncle, you're living with him, and he says, okay, you're gonna stay with me in this motel, and no one's allowed to visit you. You're like,
Yeah,
when you first come from India to America, okay?
yeah. And then he's paying $300 a month for it's a Motel 6 or some pretty
Yeah,
broken down motel. Like
yeah,
it
yeah.
was so
Because he had a rough life of his own, and he wasn't asking to take care of a 17-year-old kid coming to America too. He didn't know that this was going to be his reality, right? He's
yeah,
been
he's like a minimalist.
yeah,
He like hotel had the bed, it had curtains, it had everything. He
yeah,
made it like his own house. Like he had
yeah,
like like shit everywhere, like like properly, and like
yeah,
like some gym equipment and stuff like that. So he made it kind of like his place, and it's cheap. Like instead of paying 2,000, pay
yeah,
300 or
yeah,
But he paid $300 for that. And he's like, and I think I don't remember if I was supposed to pay that. I don't know. I don't know if I did pay. I think I did. I don't remember. Uh, but when I went over there, my room, it didn't have no air conditioning. It smelled like rats and shit. And then, and I was like, man. And then he's like, okay, let's go to Walmart to
yeah,
go buy some stuff, right? So I was like, okay. So I'm already looking at the prices, and I'm like, shit. Okay, so like a cereal, $2, $3, that's like 200 rupees. I'm like, okay, like that's like a lot of money.
yeah,
So I'm like, and he wasn't letting me pay, and he was like, okay, get whatever you want. So I got like a cereal. I didn't even get milk because then it's like double the price. And then I
yeah,
got like one more thing that was like kind of fatty or something. It was like $2, but it was like something huge, right?
yeah.
So like I spent like
Peanut butter or something.
something.
Yeah, I
If
feel
y'all,
like
I was yeah, but because the next day when after 2 days later when Kareem and Nurgis came and they're like, "What are you eating?" I'm like, well, I was eating the cereal. It's like, okay, what else? I'm like, well, that's really it. I've been eating. It's really good. The
yeah, yeah,
cereal's
yeah.
really good.
So this is your
So
first couple of days in America are like kind of you're like stuck in a situation that you probably didn't think you were going to be stuck in, but you came in with the mindset like, all right, like
worst case scenario.
like yeah, you were like, okay, I'll have to sleep on the street. If I have to sleep on the
It's
street, well, but I'll figure it out. And so right now you're staying in this motel with our uncle, and you're just kind of figuring it out while you're there. You're realizing one that he's a minimalist, two that you don't have enough money to actually buy the things that you like basic necessities you couldn't afford yourself. You didn't want to be a
yeah.
burden on him,
Mhm.
right? And then so then what ends up happening? So like how does that situation end up changing? And then where in America, where do you get your first win? what is like, when does that happen? So
So what
since
happened
you've been
is,
here, it's been tough.
okay, so my brother Sohel that lives over here, um, older brother, he was over here as well. He came to visit with Kareem, Nergis, and everybody else.
Yeah.
And he saw the whole motel. Like, we didn't tell Chacha that these guys are coming to see me, obviously.
Yeah.
And then they're like, shit, man. Okay, so like, you're not gonna stay here, bro. He's like, okay, just come stay with me in my apartment, right? And he has his dog, and then he has a 1-bedroom apartment in Arlington. So I
Yeah.
go live with Sohel, and that's my place. And I started going. I didn't have a car, so he works at a mall called Northeast Mall, and he was working at like a convenience store, like about 60, 70 hours a week. Sohel.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, if you're already going there, let me try to find a job somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So it took me a while, about a month, to get a job because like it was really intimidating. I didn't know how to get jobs. I didn't know how this works. Who do I ask? It's like I don't know how this works. So like,
Because you,
so
again, you've never made a resume. You
I,
didn't go to college. You weren't in school at the time. You're in America. And again, you're struggling with the language too, right? So it's like,
oh, big time. I don't know how anything works. And then like what I got from Soho is like, hey man, you could walk and there's like 20 places. You could apply to any place. So
yeah,
like for a whole month, I still didn't end up doing anything. And then me and him get into a little bit of arguments because I'm messy and this and that. And it's like a 500 square foot apartment.
yeah,
So it's like, kind of small and stuff like that. So my mom's best friend, she said, okay, hey, let me take you to go out to eat. And then from there, we're going to go look for a job because your mom said, we'll go find you a job or something like that.
yeah. So you,
So
your mom's friend, luckily, was like another connection in America that you had. Kind of said, okay, like, so you're living with your brother. You went from living with your uncle to living with your brother. Both of those situations weren't ideal, but again, both of these guys were kind of doing you the favor, right?
yeah, of course.
So trying to like kind of give you some guidance in America, and then your aunt says, all right, let's go find you work, or your mom's friend says, hey, let's go find you work. What was that first job?
We went to Northeast Mall. She asked like 4 places in a row, right?
Yeah,
Um, just, hey, are y'all hiring? No. Are you guys hiring? No. Like literally, just all these cards. And she
yeah,
doesn't care. She's not gonna wait. No, okay, cool. Let's bounce. Like, she doesn't care.
yeah,
So then there was this Pakistani guy over there, and he was Ismaili, what we are, our religion as well. So she said, hey, are you hiring, uncle? And he's like, yeah, we are. So he's like, who? She's like, this kid over here. So I'm
yeah,
over here wearing like a blue shirt, like super flashy for some reason, like a blue shirt, t-shirt, but it's like, it just looked weird. I'm thinking about it now. And it was like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I had like spikes and stuff like that. So he
Nice.
was he was
Yeah,
like, okay, we'll go ahead and why don't you tell him to come work for us for 2 days? We won't pay him for 2 days, and we'll hold his check for 2 weeks.
yeah,
Um, and we're gonna go ahead and start him off at $7 an hour if it works out. So she's like, okay, you found the job, go for it. So I was like, okay, I got a job. I was happy. I asked dad about it. He's like, that's perfect, dude. If you work for an Indian or a Pakistani, any Indian or any like, more than likely like a lot of immigrants,
yeah,
like if you're getting paid under the table, um, or whatever the case is,
yeah,
they're gonna treat you like shit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And
yeah,
at the mall, a lot of times they kind of sometimes pay you under the table. So that's the only job I could find with my English.
yeah,
So I started working over there, and that guy, I worked for like 70 hours a week. Um, and I worked there for about 4 or 5 months, 6 months. I saved up about $5,000 to $6,000, and then I bought a car. And then once I bought a car, I started looking for more jobs. So that's when I applied for T-Mobile, and my English got better by then. I
yeah,
started learning a little bit more about sales,
yeah,
and me working at this place was a really vital point in my life, is because I worked for like $7 an hour for so long, but like this guy had a camera on me, and he would be like, "Hey man, he's calling me, and he's like, hey, you're not working. You need to be like, even though there's no crowd, you need to be cleaning this, cleaning that." I'm like, I just cleaned it like 15 minutes ago. He's like, you're still just constantly, you're getting paid every second. Do the math. Let's do the math right now. He'll come back and he's like, look, every 10 seconds, you're getting paid this much every minute. So you should be working like every minute. So
yeah,
like,
yeah,
that's where I kind of learned a lot of the work ethic and stuff like that. And then it was a kiosk too. So when
That's
I first,
that's valuable. I mean, I've never quite seen it like that. I mean, I don't. To me, that seems like it's a bit much. But I think that it's really good. I think that's like one of the reasons why I think it can be like really helpful when you're like young, taking on an internship or whatever, or like working really hard for somebody else teaches you a lot of fucking things. So in this case, it was good that you took that. There was a lesson out of that. You know what I mean? That like rather than, I mean, you could be bitter about it too. That's kind of ridiculous to be like, oh, what the fuck? I just worked. I just wipe this shit down. Why am I wiping it again? Or why am I having to just do
I
bullshit?
was I was bitter back then. I was bitter back then, but I just couldn't. I didn't want to show it because
Well, you
like
had no
that just
leverage. I mean, what were
yeah,
you
and
gonna do, right?
yeah, I
So
didn't know where else I would work. This is the same place I'm already coming to and stuff like that. Like, I'm getting a free ride and stuff like that. So this is
yeah,
like ideal for me is what I was thinking.
yeah,
And then like this guy, he would tell me that instead of being inside the kiosk, stand outside. Okay. So even though it's a kiosk where you're supposed to be inside, I'm standing outside and he's like, say hi to that person, stop that person. Like on my first 5 days or 8 days. And I understand, like I had to learn this shit. So I'm like trying to, he's like, I'm like, hey, hello. I'm like, I don't even know how to stop these guys. I'm like, excuse me, hey, are you interested or something like that? Like, he's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay, tell them, how are you doing today? So we're like,
yeah,
hey, how are you guys doing today? And they're like, good. And they're just going. I'm like, fuck.
yeah,
So then I started over time. I was like, okay, let me try to change it up. Let me just try to be more nicer. I'm like, hey, where'd you shop? Did you shop over there? How are the specials over there? She's like, really? Oh man, that's so crazy. I was
yeah,
like, you know what? I think I could guess your ring size. Isn't that an 8? She's like, how'd you know? I was like, let me show you something. So
yeah,
I put on a ring on her, and I'll be like, it's a $250 ring, silver ring, no diamond. It's just cubic zirconia metal, the thing on it. And I would be like, look, this is 250, but my boss isn't here, and I could probably just leave this for $80 if you want.
yeah,
She's like, really? I was like, yeah, I mean, if you want that, I mean, she's like, I don't have the money right now. Okay, well, you could go ahead and do the layaway plan. I mean, how much do you have? Well, I only have 40. I could come back and give the 40 later.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So regardless of what the deal is, you can make the deal happen. The
So
cost
you
price of
found
that thing's,
right, right, right,
like, we
right. So
know the cost price. Everything was marked up
right,
10 times over. Like a
right, right, right,
$300 thing's 3,000. So if you sell it
right.
for 900, you're Gucci.
So how much? So this is all part of that first job, right? So you start amassing enough money there, and then you get the car, and you're like, okay, now because you were doing obviously good enough there that you started making enough money, put in all those hours, and then from there you go buy your car, and then what job do you go to
So
next?
okay, so I applied for T-Mobile, Sprint, all 6, 7 jobs over there in the mall. Almost everybody said yes. Now it was on me to decide which one I want to go to.
Yeah,
So that's when I came to you guys and asked you guys, like everybody as a group, that hey guys, like I have an opportunity for T-Mobile, Verizon, Sprint, Heldsburg Jewelers, or this or that. Where do you think I could make the most money, or what would be more ideal, y'all think? Like, as an opportunity wise.
yeah,
So like most what I got was T-Mobile.
yeah,
And then in one of those job opportunities, there was this timeshare deal that I was telling you about,
yeah,
everybody about as well. But they're like, nah, not that one. That doesn't look like real legit, right?
yeah,
So, but I would be at the mall and I would see this girl, this like pretty girl, and she'd be just walking around. And since I'm at the mall, she'll come and talk to me, and she'll be like, hey, I just did $1,000 this week. And I was like, how the hell did you make $1,000?
yeah.
And she's like, well, I'm in sales. I sell like packages over there. I was like, really? And she's like, yeah, I'm just going to go shop. I'm going to go spend $300. I was like, oh, shit. So like even at
That's
T-Mobile,
yeah. That's like 3 months worth of salary in India. You know what I mean? That's like three
yeah,
months
yeah.
in India. You know what I mean? It's like yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was a big amount. But even in T-Mobile, they would show me paychecks where someone made 1,500 a week. So everywhere they're like, hey, you can make
yeah. They're making
1,000,
money.
fifteen
Yeah,
hundred, or 1,000. So
yeah.
it's like everywhere was the same. But I was like, there was something about this place that I wanted to try out. So like typically, I would have picked T-Mobile because y'all said that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I
All
would
of you
have done
said
that.
go work at T-Mobile. That
And
seems like between all your options right now, this seems to be like at least the most stable from like everything else that you've mentioned in the past and all the crazy shit that you've been going through. And it's not commission based. I think it'd be like an hourly based position where you finally have like fixed income coming in on a regular basis. That was
Yeah.
terrible advice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you ignored that and you end up going to work for
Silver Leaf.
timeshare.
Yes.
Yeah, this timeshare
Yeah,
company.
I ended up doing that just because like 2 months prior, just before leaving to America, mom's like, look, you're gonna learn a lot of stuff up there,
Yeah,
but you don't get that many opportunities. So when you get it, you just go for it, right?
yeah,
So she's like, there's this saying that she told me like 10 times in my life where she's like, suno sabki and karo apni, which means listen to everybody. That means don't be like, hey, I know more than you, I'm not gonna listen to you or something. But then once you get everybody's advice, once you hear everybody, then once whatever you feels right, then do that, you know?
yeah,
So I was like, you know what? In my gut feeling, I felt like, let me try this deal out, right? Worst case, if it doesn't work out, a month later,
yeah. And
keep
what was
going.
that? What was that line again that your mom said?
Suno sabki, karo apni.
Okay.
Yeah. So I ended up picking that Serverleaf job, and which is a timeshare company. So basically, my job would be to stop someone and be like, "Hey, I'm going to give you a $40 vacation, and you get a year to use it. There's no blackout dates, and the only thing you have to pay for is your taxes.
Yeah.
And if you go ahead and do it right now, we'll go ahead and give you airfare as well." Now, the only catch is you go to this place 2 hours away, or like an hour away, and you go do a 90-minute presentation where they're going to try to sell you something potentially,
Yeah.
and then you get your $40 back, and you get the trip for free.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the pitch over there. So I started working there. In my first week, they put me at Albertsons at a grocery store, and I'm like, this is kind of like ridiculous. Um, and by
So
the
you're supposed
way,
to sell timeshares at an Albertsons. That's what they're
yeah.
trying to.
So yeah, and by the way, my car came in 2 weeks after I started working at Serverleaf, about a week and a half after I started working at Serverleaf.
Okay.
So the first week and a half, I started just walking to work. So like for my interview, I walked 2.5 hours to give my interview
Yeah. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
Serverleaf.
Yeah.
So it was like pretty intense. Like just
Yeah.
going over there and just they would ask me questions like when I came for the interview, they're like, "How much are you trying to make?" I was like, "Look, I make about 1,900 right now. I want to make 2,200. If I make 2,200, that's the worst case scenario. After that, everything's cheese." So they're like, "Hey, man, the top 3 reps over here are like 2 Indians and 1 Pakistani guy. So like, if you're Indian and you got some hustle in you, maybe you'll work out." So I was
The
like,
race tells me that you're gonna do well. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, okay, that's a good confidence
Yeah.
over there.
What was that? What
So
was the race of the guy that said that to you?
he was white.
Fair
He's
enough.
like, and he was trying to not be racist. He's like, "Are
But
you
yeah.
Indian?" He's
Yeah.
like, "Can I ask you
He's
what your
trying to motivate.
nationality is?"
But
I'm like,
yeah. Yeah.
he's like, "Look, all these guys, they're the top reps," and
Yeah.
they're like showing me some checks that I'm thinking is bullshit too. Then after that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but whatever the case is, I ended up working at Albertsons. I got 1 or 2 sales that no one gets over there. They're like, "Oh shit, this new kid's doing something that nobody ever gets a sale over there. People only get leads, like
Yeah.
where you fill something out and we call you to sell you something over the phone, which is different."
How'd you
So
do that? How'd you get the sales at Albertsons? What'd you do?
I would literally, I just had a smile and I would stop every
People
single
walk by
person.
and what would you do? When they would walk by, what would you do?
I'd be like, "Hey, what'd you end up getting?" Or I'm like, "Hey, is that
In the grocery cart?
yeah.
Okay.
I
And
would
of all the people that would walk by, how many did you? Okay, so if like 100 people walked by, how many of the 100 did you stop? Of the 100, how many gave you a positive response? And of the 100, how many did you actually close? Do you think
I
approximately?
probably I stopped. I try to stop like 80 of them,
Okay.
and about 40 of them would stop. And the other ones are still like nice. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't get
To
that
get them
many.
moving. Yeah.
Like if you're not being a dick about it, like if I'm not trying to, like, if they're not gonna stop, they're not gonna buy. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like I would just let them go. But like basically, I would have to give like 15 pitches to close one, like 15, 16, which
Yeah.
is like ridiculous. Like it's a pretty big number.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know kind of the pitch that well. So
Yeah.
it's like I was just getting intimidated. I didn't know how, when they say yes for a sale, like how to like to get, it was just a little weird
Yeah. So
just
they
because
gave
it
you a
was
script. They gave you a script to say, but did they tell you how to stop these people, or did you just come up with that on your own?
you're supposed to stop them by saying, "Hey, enter to win this raffle to win $5,000."
Did you say that to people, or did you say something else?
I wouldn't say enter the raffle. When they would come, I'd be like, "Hey, this is just so that we could try to call you and do this.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, it's let me just go ahead and tell you what it is right now itself. So let me just give you the real demo right now, see if you're interested, so that we don't have to call you and stuff like that. And
yeah,
even
yeah.
if they don't buy, I'll still make them fill it out. So usually there's a greeter and then there's a salesman. I got the salesman job, but there's no greeter over
So
there
you
too.
would be able to get both, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started getting like 90 leads instead of 40 leads over there, right? Or 20 leads or 10 leads.
Yeah.
And then I started getting one or two sales, one sale a day, which is like they pay me like $80 or $100 a sale.
Yeah.
So my first week I had like 5 sales, and they're like, okay, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
because a lot of people wouldn't maybe be able to do that. So let's go and put them somewhere else.
Yeah.
So right after that, spring break came through. And they put me at Six Flags or State Fair or Six Flags, one of those places. And they started giving me good shifts because we would work at the Rangers, Cowboys, Stars, State Fair, all sorts of events. So they gave me better places.
Yeah.
And I just made like 20 sales that week.
And so
My
during
second-
this time, though, when you started getting, so they put you in a better position from like a shittier one because you performed really well in the first one. But what were you like? Were you nervous about doing all these sales again? When you saw all these people walking by, were you like, man, fuck, I don't want to stop these people? Or were you like, I don't give a fuck if they walk by me. Them rejecting me is not going to have any impact on me.
No, for me, it was like, I don't give a fuck, because like in my head, man, if you're going to be working like 40 hours a week, you could work like normal, what people are doing, which is basically not much, or
Yeah.
you could just work to a point where, okay, if you work 40 hours, you shouldn't feel like, oh, later after those 40 hours, man, I wish I made more sales. It should just be like no regrets. You know what I mean? Like I tried my best. Like after every time I would try to stop someone, they would say no. They would say something like, okay, what did I do wrong there? I would always say something. I would always try to reevaluate that situation.
So were you following their scripts as time went on, or did you start kind of
No.
making up your own stuff?
No, what I started to do is I said, hey, I want to start getting training from all the top. I want to start shadowing the top guys in the whole thing, right? Like in Silverleaf. So they're like, okay. So there were about 8 of them that I shadowed, like within 3 days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because 2 or 3 sometimes work together.
Yeah.
So I just had a book and a paper that usually nobody has. And I'm not trying to, you don't want to write stuff that doesn't really fucking matter, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just listening to the lines that I hear. So whenever he makes a joke or someone laughs and they're like, oh, so whenever he makes something like, hey, is that your sister or your daughter? Or something like that. Something flirty, something. Yeah. To the mom. So, so you and your sister are going out today? Something like that. They're like, no, that's my daughter. Oh, really? No. They're like, they know you playing with them, but they, that just builds rapport and stuff like that.
Right.
So I started seeing lines like that. And then this other guy was like, did they give it to you? And they're like, what? Oh, they didn't give it to you? Like, no. Oh, here, let me show you something, and then just fuck with them, just like straight up fuck with them,
Yeah.
So I was just copying like all the top lines, and then I would just start using them myself, and then I would just make them my own self. I would just kind of like put a little bit of twist to it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So kind of, that's kind of how.
So you start doing your shit there, and then you obviously start seeing a lot of traction. I think you end up becoming like the top salesman there. Oh, did your headset die?
Yeah, it looks like the battery died.
Oh shit! Do you have a headset?
I need to take a look.
Fuck.
Is this thing?
I think we can make it work. I think we can make this work, even with the audio. Yeah, I think that's fine. It's kind of loud, but it's okay. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. All right, let's just run with it.
Okay, you can hear me though. You can hear me fine.
I can hear you. I can hear you fine. So you end up doing well, and you end up like finally fucking killing it in the sales there. You start doing really well. I think you become the top salesman at Silverleaf, and at the top mark, selling timeshares. How much sales revenue were you generating a year?
I was doing about $1 million in revenue.
And what were like the top 5 guys doing there, you think?
So there was only one guy. So there's like 3 different packages.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how they looked at. I was selling the $99 package. So I was number 1 in the nation in my first year in that. So I was doing about $1 million in sales. The second guy was my present business partner. He's my best friend. He was doing about exactly $1 million. So he was ideally, they called him Sonny too. His name is Sonny as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other guys were like 600, 400, 750.
Yeah.
So I ended up working like 8 months.
Lower the camera just a little bit. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. I ended up working about 8 months over there. And in that 8 months, I ended up doing that revenue. So like that was for me making $7 an hour to making six figures from $7 to like in months, fucking six figures.
Right.
So like,
and that's and in large part it was because it sounds to me like, one, you didn't give a fuck about the hours that you had to work. You were like, I don't give a fuck, I'm just gonna work it. And then two, it was about the fact that you were like, yeah, I got nothing to lose. Like I got, it's terrible. Like it's not gonna be like much better over there, right? Or there's a hotel that I got to go back to at my uncle's place, right? Or like my cousin's apartment, or I'm gonna be stuck. So really, it's not like you really didn't have much to lose, right? It was like, yo, let me go all the way. Let me hit it really hard, or let me just go back to what I was doing before. And it seems like going all the way, every time you kept trying, you were finding some success. And then you were tweaking it and adjusting your technique as you were seeing people based on what you learned from shadowing, based on seeing what other successful people were doing, which is obviously really, really smart. And then also from just kind of your own experience. So when you started shadowing people, how did you decide, how did you approach them? What did you say to them to say like, hey, I want to shadow you? Like, what was that process like?
Well, it was pretty simple. If you're the top rep, you're going to have people shadow you like on a weekly basis, 3-4 times.
Oh, if the company required it, is like a part of the company.
Yeah. Okay. And as a top rep, when you're making that much money, you really don't care. Like, it's fine. As long as you don't talk, and if you don't say anything, and if you don't stare at my customers. So I wasn't allowed to look at them in a certain way. I had to stand a little bit back. I can't even close and try to listen to what his pitch is. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Thing is his introduction. I'm like, okay, he's asking for the sale. So I could hear with, stuff like that.
Right.
But
so you end up finding success there. You end up doing like great there, selling fucking timeshares. All right. And this is, so you're getting put into certain locations. People walk by, you got to flag them down. Then there, when do you decide that, all right, you know what? I've had enough of this. I've had enough of the timeshare life. I'm going to move on to the next project or to the next thing. What was that? And how'd you do that?
Well, my plan was, so the reason what made me change is if I don't see an increase in the money coming in, I didn't feel like I'm growing.
You plateaued. Like you can only make so much money with the amount of time that you had in a day because you don't have one volume. Like there was no like $900 package. There's only $100 package, right? That was the best.
So guess what the funny part was?
They removed that package, right? Or something? Didn't they do something?
Yeah, they removed that package. What happened is the budget for that package for 12 people was 60. So you need to get 60 sales a week.
Yeah.
My manager, he had 10, 12 people under him. He needs to hit 60 a week, 99, right? So they were at like 20 or 25. Literally, there's like 3 reps that don't make a sale, one rep that makes 5 sales, and then the pretty girl, she was in the same package. So she's like acting like she's the boss and shit like that. I was like, wait, that's fine, right? And I'm fine with that. But she was like trying to teach me how to sell, and I'm like, actually, I don't need your help. Like, I don't feel like you're helping me because she didn't know what she was doing. It looked like. But she was gorgeous. I think maybe, I don't know what but I'm saying, look, there's people that buy just looking at looks sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. There's a reason why sales, I mean, not always, but I mean, I think it's like kind of ridiculous. It's always the good looking girl or whatever that's like using you to pull you in to click on for clickbait stuff for sales. That's like a known thing. I think it's always been around. So yeah, I mean, having good looks rarely is, I don't want to say always, but it ain't going to hurt you. You know what I mean? It's not a bad, it's like, yeah, you got lucky with that. It's better to take advantage of those looks than the other way around. You know what I mean? So yeah, so she was doing great. So you were in that, those people. Yeah.
So for that budget, I was ending up doing 40 sales a week or 35 on an average by myself.
Yeah.
So these guys were like, dude, this kid is getting paid more than, I was getting paid more than my manager, and then the manager on top of that, and then the director. So like in that 8 months that I worked, I ended up making 130,000. But the year after that, I worked harder. I did more revenue. They took out that package and I ended up making 100 grand. And I'm like right under, like at 105. And I'm like, this ain't fair.
Right.
Just when I was trying to leave, they're like, okay, let us bring the package back. So by that time I was just like, man, I'm just kind of ticked off.
Yeah.
I started looking for like other jobs. I was like, okay, let me look around now.
Yeah.
So I ended up kind of, I think, so I went to go work at this place called Multiview, which is over the phone sales, right? And I was at my gym at my apartment, and I was working out, and there was this mid-aged lady. She was with her kid, and she was like, hey, what do you do? And stuff like that. And we were just talking, and then she said, she told me that she works at this place in Irving, Texas, where, she makes a lot of money. And I was like, what's a lot of money? She's like, 100,000. I was like, okay, you make 100,000? She's like, yeah. She's like, what about you? Like, what do you do? I was like, yeah, I work over here. I'm looking for another job. I do kind of well right now. So she's like, okay. And I was like, how much does your top rep make over there? Because I'm thinking if I was number one over here.
That's what's up. Yeah. So you immediately say that's you're not targeting for the middle or the low anymore. You're assuming, let me hear what the ceiling is. That's what I'm going for every time. It doesn't matter what the job is. That's the objective.
Yeah. Yeah. So she said the top guy makes $400,000 a year. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I said, what's the name of the company? So she said Multiview. And she took my number and she said she'll give me a call and let me know. But regardless of what happens, she called me like a week later. But by that time, I already showed up at Multiview and I already told them that I'm looking for a job. And then by her coming in and
like validating you, giving you a reference, right?
So because you have to have a degree because it's like digital advertising, you need to have like some sort of marketing degree or something. Everything's above. I was what, 19 or 20, but everybody was like above 25 years old. Everybody had a degree. So I went in for the interview and then like they basically accepted me. They said, okay, yeah, we'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
And I started working there. And by that time, like I had bills to pay because I was trying to get my mom here and dad here from India. So I hired a lawyer that was, costing $40,000, $50,000 that I have to pay over 2 years. So like now I'm going to pay that over payments, which is $2,000 a month. That's what I was paying. So like this new job.
Because you were at the tail end, like now you could finally do your sponsorship. You could finally bring your parents from India.
That's my plan. My plan was, my whole point of coming and making money is to just get back where we were first at, but 10 times bigger. And just, because we've been through so much struggle, it's just about time that, I've told my mom,
it's wins. Right.
Our time's going to come. Now it's going to be here.
Right.
See, but where were we exactly?
So you were basically at Multiview now, and you're the only kid there. You're like 19 years old or 18 years old. You don't have a degree. Everybody around you is older, educated, has some degree in marketing. All right. So talk to me about your experience there. What ends up happening?
So the salary over there was like $40,000 a year, right? And then they give you commission on top. So I was struggling to try to make a sale. Like they give you a whole list. There's a list of leads. And it's just businesses, and only 20% of those leads has the point of contact you're supposed to call.
Yeah.
So you have to call like a big business, like a Johnson & Johnson, which I've called GE. Like it's just not worth trying to track someone down. Yeah. It's not going to happen. So like all the biggest companies I've tried. So like basically you call them, you tell them, hey, go on this website, get on this newsletter, and you see that spot on the top right side. We have that spot available for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you're going to get this much exposure, and you're
like this many dollars. And
So you're trying to sell them something for $30,000 for like for them advertising there for 2 weeks. Yeah. Now in my head, like I'm kind of intimidated to like just another level, like because I felt the same way everybody feels when they come to my sales environment, where they're in a bubble and they just can't come out of that bubble. They're just like that bubble. So it's like I just couldn't like come out of that bubble. And a lot of people were in the same situation where they can't make sales, but that's actually in every sales organization. So I just couldn't gauge is this really that hard or is this me?
Yeah. So you came in thinking I'm going to be the top dog. This time around, you're like, okay, what's the number one spot? I'm going to go for that guy. And now you're like at the middle or the bottom of the pack, right? At this, this isn't like chasing people down that are walking down the street from you. This is like getting on a phone and making a call to a big corporation. And you struggled with that.
Yeah. So they have 450 people that were working in that building, right? They do like $400 or $500 million in sales. So they look at how hard you're working by your time and your minutes.
Yeah.
Put like 250, 300 minutes. Like for you to do that, first you have to call and research. So being on the phone with someone and trying to do that, so I was number one in minutes, number two, but that didn't mean shit. They're like, good job, Sonny. And I'm like, I'm crying from the inside. I'm like, like, what the fuck? You know, like my bills are $70,000 a month, right?
Yeah.
Shit that like I have my brother that came to live with me right when I started this multi-view job.
Yeah.
And he came right when I quit my Silverleaf job. And when he moved over here, I ended up like, okay, here, let's buy this, let's get this. So I ended up spending a bunch, and I'm like, I was like, okay, now we're gonna, you know.
Right.
And like I depleted my whole. Basically, I didn't make no. I wasn't able to make no sales.
Yeah, I mean, I think one, the expenses went up because, like you said, your brother came in, but you also came in with this expectation that you're gonna be this top dog. So you're like relying on expectation rather than reality, and you're over leveraging based on what you think you'll get out of this instead of actually what you've done, right? So like that, I mean, old money's burned, right? It's like, I mean, what you made yesterday is yesterday, unless it's like growing income for you. In this case, it wasn't doing that. So in this case, you're going out there trying to get the next thing. It hasn't delivered yet, and your bills are still as if you were making that kind of money, which you weren't.
Yeah, and I haven't gave up in a lot of things yet where I've tried, and then I'm like, you know, because when you try with so much willpower, it's gonna work.
Yeah, usually works.
But I was just keep on going down and down, and basically I have like less than 10,000, 5,000 left, and I'm like, I have 2 months left. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I'm dying.
Right.
I started getting anxiety attacks, and I couldn't sleep for the past. I worked there for 5 or 6 months, but the past 5 months or something, I wasn't able to sleep. I would only sleep 4 hours a day or 3 hours a day, and that's never happened where I had a sleeping problem. So now I started having this sleeping problem.
Yeah.
I go to a doctor that gives me vitamins to help me out, and
is it like melatonin or something?
Yeah, I think I told you.
Is that melatonin? Is that the thing that puts you to sleep? I don't know. I think that's the thing.
He gave me melatonin, and then because of stress and stuff like that, you can't go to the restroom and stuff like that too.
So he gave you medicine to help you take a shit?
Yeah. No, bro. The first guy that I went to, he put his finger. Like, I'm like, dude, you're fucking. This is not the right. This is not right. You know. So like, and it wasn't a poke, it was like submerge or whatever the hell you want to call it, but it was not fun, man. So that guy, he was a scam artist because he didn't give me it was just some stupid medicine that didn't work.
Yeah.
It was just some stupid shit. He looked so stupid. So I tried the medicine, nothing worked, where you like eat it and then everything.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need to go to another doctor because like, and I hate doctors. So so I went to the other doctor when I was at Target, and I was at Target with a friend, and it was we were trying to get some medicine, like some allergy medicine, and I started freaking out. I started getting a panic attack. I got a panic attack where I just felt like just getting all those stalls that they have where they have everything stocked on there and just grabbing and throwing it all.
Putting it all into the car. Yeah.
Like I just wanted to break everything like Hulk or something, like
yeah.
Something. I don't know. And that happened like twice where I'm like, and it's out of anxiety, and I started crying. And then she's like, chill out, slow down. It's okay. And I'm like, and I'm just crying. I'm like, I couldn't help it. So like, I got through this weird stage and I was getting depressed. I'm like, I can't get out of this. I'm trying everything.
And it's because you could not close a fucking sale. It was because
like I made one sale, right? And then I'm like, okay, let me try to sell the same guy, and I'm like wasting time on the same guy because I'm like, now at this point I'm desperate, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening, So
how do you get out of that? So what do you do?
So what happened is I wanted an ultimatum. Like if you tell me like, hey, if you don't do this in a week, you're fired. That could get me to another, potentially be like, okay, let me break out of this fucking shell or like break this egg open or something like that.
Yeah.
But the wife and husband, the husband that owns the company, he got divorced. So out of 400 people, they laid off 250. Like, you just lay off like 20 new salesmen you bring in. If
Yeah.
it's not working out, you fire them.
Yeah.
But they laid off 250, and half of them were top performing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So easier to, even if they're top performing, if they're newer, it's easier to lay them off and give them a severance pay versus someone working there for like 30 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they called us in a room and they're like, hey guys, it looks like, you know, you're going to be part of the layoffs as well. Here's your severance pay. You're not getting fired. We're not firing you. So it's not the severance pay. If you're going to accept this, that means you're not going to sue us. It was like 20.
File for unemployment. Yeah.
Yeah, or something like that. Or file.
Yeah. I think if you take severance, you can't file for unemployment. I think that's the rule.
Yeah. So so they said that, and I was like, the person that interviewed me was over there. So I was like, guys, you didn't even give us a notice. Like, is this like, why don't you do this? Why don't you tell me that, hey, okay, your goals are to do $30,000 in revenue a month. Why don't you say that, hey, Sonny, why don't you do $100,000 in revenue a month? If you don't do this outrageous number, then you're fired. Why don't you just give me some outrageous thing that I can't even achieve? Maybe you never know. Just let me just try, you know? I tried everything. They're like, no, this is not what it's just not going to happen. I'm sorry. So I was the only one like really.
That's fucking ridiculous. Why on earth would somebody say no to that? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
people undervalue fucking people's talent all the time. That's like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I'd be like, yeah, fuck it, try it. Let's see what happens. You know, it's like, what do you have to lose when you do that? You know what I mean? Okay. Yeah. I guess that company.
Yeah. So that company went under, whatever the case is. And then I was like, okay, I don't have a job at this point. I went to sleep for the first time in my life. I was able to sleep without anything. Like,
I feel like,
but after that depression deal, I slept just fine. And I was like, oh shit, was it this job or something? I was like, I still have this thing in my heart that, you know, I wasn't able to do this, but I'm like, I don't know, you know?
Yeah. And I think maybe that's normal, you know, maybe the idea is that like not everyone can be great at everything, but I think it's that the fact that it eats at you that much means that it still probably puts some fire in you. You know what I mean? Because if you maybe had done pretty well, maybe you were in the middle of the pack, or maybe you were close to the top, but not at the top, and then you got laid off, maybe you would have been depressed afterwards. So here, it kind of worked out for the best. You know, the company goes under. Now you have this fire in you, and you fucking slept well finally. Maybe you're getting that reboot, that restart again that you needed. You know what I mean? So what happens next? What do you do next?
So right away I go work at this other timeshare place, not the same Silverleaf place I quit because of the principal part of it. Yeah. And I was like, okay, obviously I'm not gonna work here forever,
right?
Even for a couple months. I'm just here for 2 to 3 weeks to make some money. And I started looking for jobs. So I applied for 18 jobs on Craigslist and Indeed. And then the next day I applied for another 16 jobs. And I just thought, let me apply for like all these 30 places and see.
Did you have a resume at the time?
That's, yeah, I did. Because for Multiview, that's when you helped me make my resume.
I made the resume?
You helped me make my resume for my timeshare job.
Oh, I didn't think you had a resume. I think you just walked into the door and said, hire me. Okay, all right.
You know, I had a resume that we had it, you know, in Trade Jewelers, Fashion Freak. No,
I don't remember. I have to look this up. Okay, fair enough. All right, yeah. So you end up. So now you go back to another spot. You or you're now doing a bunch of applications, and then through.
Yeah. So I applied for all these different jobs, and I waited for. I thought, let me just see how many people reach out to me, and then I'll pick between them. So like 6 or 7 people reached out to me, right? On my second day when I was looking for the interviews, I found a post that said, hey, you don't need to waste your time sending your resume. If you have sales experience, that's awesome. Just call this number. This is our company name. We've been in business for 50 years. If you want to make real money, call us, or something like that. So I was like, wait, this is to the point. This looks nice. Let me call this guy.
Yeah.
So I call this guy, and we speak on the phone for like 30 minutes. And he's like, and I had a great time with him. I was like, hey man, I'm you know, what do you guys do? And he's like, this is a sign company. We're the largest sign company in the country. So these digital signs and these marquees and all sorts of things. And, why don't you come over to the office and I'll show you how our demo works and everything like that. And he asked me about what my experience was. So I told him that I sold jewelry before. I've sold time packages. He's like, man, you'd be great if you come over here. So I was like, okay. So I felt I got a good vibe, no red flags. I showed up over there the next day. I went to two places real quick. I went to ADT and I went to this other place, which is the sign company. So when I went to ADT, I showed up with like these shorts, like these 3/4 shorts and like these casual, because I know ADT is all about sales.
Right.
I thought they wouldn't care too much about the dress code, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
whatever, that bit me. You need to come with the proper dress code, he said. We're going to reschedule the interview. I was like, okay. Yeah, he rescheduled the interview. I didn't show up. I didn't even go to the.
Like that. Yeah, that's it. Now you're done. You've moved on.
Yeah,
right.
I was done. I was like, yeah, you probably talked to me. You should know that, hey, this is so fuck you. So whatever. I go to the sign company with the same outfit, and he was like, he gave me coffee and water, and he's like, we're talking, and he shows me the presentation. Like he shows these signs. He lights them up, these miniature samples.
Yeah.
Damn, this looks so cool.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, hey, how does this work? How much is this stuff for? He's like, look, this sign over here is like $8,000. I was like, nice. So he's like, what's the commission on this? He's like 20%.
Wow.
I get like 20% of this.
Yeah.
How much does the top guys make over here? I'm like, how many people make 100K? Tell me that, I said first.
Yeah.
He's like, there's about 20% that make 100K. So he's like, the top 20% do 80% of the revenue, he said. I was like,
yeah, that's an 80-20 rule. I mean, that's fucking everywhere. You know what I mean? That rule is just like so prevalent in like every industry. So this guy tells you that these guys are killing it, that the top guys here are this many top guys are making this much money. You think to yourself, all right, I'm back in the game. I can do what these guys are doing. What did the job like entail?
So I'll tell you, this is where the interesting part comes in. So I'm working this place from Monday through Friday, right?
Yeah.
So they told me that, okay, what you need to do is you have a whole piece of paper. There's 25 names or 25 slots over there. You need to knock doors. Whenever you go to a street, you knock one business. What you do is you drive through and you write down all the businesses' names. Then you go back to those businesses, walk, and then you knock. Or just show up and give them your sales pitch. Hey, my name is Sunny. I'm from the marketing department of the sign company.
Yeah.
The signs in town or something stupid. Like I don't even remember the main pitch as well.
Yeah.
I could do my own pitch, but their pitch was kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
So basically I have to go knock those doors and, try to sell them. So I would try to go to all these 24 places and the business owner ain't there. Like 4 of them have the business owner and they don't want to talk to me.
And you're trying to sell them a big LED sign, right? Like
I'm trying to sell them a sign. I'm over there trying to tell them that, hey, let me show you how I could bring you more business.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to 40 and 50 businesses a day. And I'm like, I'm doing twice as much as people and I'm not getting anything here too. And I'm back to that situation. I'm like, why is this not happening? Why is this so hard? This is like so hard, Like, what am I getting up to? I'm like getting into this shit, which is so hard every time. So I was working my other job that I was saying at the same time,
the second timeshare job. The
second timeshare job where I was like, making about 60, 70,000 a year. Like I was in my head, that was my security, right? Already making whatever that is to break even. Whatever I make at the sign company is cheese. So my homie told me, my best friend, that, why don't you just quit your job? Why don't you just quit that security and just go do or die? I was like, dude, I don't even know if I have like 2 months worth of money for do or die. I just started, I'm like in this stupid situation. Right. So he's like, just think about it. If you want to do or die, maybe, because that's what you told me you felt like you probably didn't do at Multiview, like do or die, just try do or die. So I was like, okay. So I quit that job, the security, and I was like, okay, now let's see what happens. So because I was getting frustrated and on the field, I started crying like twice. And that's after me calling myself a sales expert and me being number one 2 years in a row.
And not being able to deliver over and over again. So yeah, that has to hurt your ego for sure.
Yeah, it hurts your ego. And the thing is, I believe that, you know, like if you've done something, accomplished something somewhere else, you could use that same discipline. Like I use my same discipline of pool, you know, like the skill or the discipline you need to work hard. And, you know, same discipline I used at like the table tennis, playing professional. You have to learn, you have to see what, you know, like you have to try to get yourself better at things. You have to reevaluate what you did wrong in your previous points. So just same thing, just use the same situation. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to tear this piece of paper. I'm going to tear the pitch because this shit ain't working. And I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to just do something unorthodox.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, let me drive 45 minutes more further out. I started talking to other people. They're like, hey, when you drive in the country, people are a little bit nicer. They're not as busy and they'll probably listen to you. So I was like, okay, let me drive in the country.
Yeah.
So I drive like an hour and a half away and I see so many businesses that have our signs. So I started going to people that already have our signs. And I said, hey, why don't you give me references of other people that you know of? So, you know, so I could go talk to them, you know, like, okay. So I would go try to sell my existing customer a sign. He says, no, I get 3 referrals. I go to those 3 referrals and I get three more referrals. Then I go to those 9 and then I make it 7.
So you did 2 things. The existing base that you were working with wasn't working. So you then said, okay, well, what do I do if me in this current city environment isn't working? Let me try going to a different environment, a more rural environment, right? And then saying, okay, let me go down and let me go talk to people that already have our signs. Let me see what they're doing. See if they want an upgrade or something. They didn't want the upgrade, but you said, okay, give me referrals. Let me at least, who do you think might want my sign, right? Who do you think would need a sign, right? And so they would say, yeah, okay, we got a couple of businesses for you. And then you started saying, okay, I'm going to go to these guys. So rather than going cold again, you kind of developed a quick reference that you could easily throw back into the pitch. Is that right?
Yeah. So I would just tell them that, hey, man, the automotive shop that's been here for 40 years has our sign.
Yeah.
They have so much business. So you try to connect that to that. And I'm like, man, what you have everything, but what don't you have?
Right.
Sign he does, you know?
Yeah.
So what we could do is, look, this thing's pretty expensive. I get it, but this thing's about $20,000. But if you let us put a little sticker in the bottom that has our name and number, we're going to have 3 customers over the next 5 years that are going to spend another $15,000 with us because of seeing your sign and being like, oh, this is such a badass sign. Let me call these guys and buy a sign.
Is that what the sign company told you?
Yeah, so that was one of their pitches where you put a little sticker in the bottom.
Yeah.
You know, what they did for 55 years where, you know, you show them a price that's $25,000. Then you tell them about our marketing program, how, you know, we have all these testimonials and stuff like that, and how if, you know, we make our money. So for you, since you're in the main street up here and we have so much viewing, you know, your sign's going to be viewed so much. We want to use you as our location.
Right. So you end up finding some success leveraging these guys, leveraging your previous, whoever else they might have known. I'm guessing you start finding a lot more success doing this. Do you end up making your way back to the top in this company too, or no?
Yes.
Okay. And how long did that take? Like the time frame on that?
So, July, August. So I started the company in July, and me struggling for that, me crying and all that stuff and all that stress was like for 10 days.
Yeah.
The next month I was number 1 in sales in the nation.
That happened quick. So I guess you pivoted your strategy, and then things ended up working out for you pretty quickly. And so when that ends up happening, what do you end up deciding to do afterwards? At what point do you again get to the point where you're saying, okay, I've mastered this area. I now understand how to sell businesses. And you're again walking in cold, either cold or with a reference, right?
So let me tell you this. So when I was real quick, when I was selling those signs, right?
Yeah.
My first year, my average sale was like $8,000 $5,000, $4,000. So about $5,000, $6,000. I wanted to learn one more thing that I was missing. I had a lot of things. I was like, okay, how do I sell these big things? How do I sell the 30, 40, 50, $60,000 deals?
Yeah.
So I was like, because there's one or two out of like 200 of these guys that do that.
Right.
I only sell like one or two big sales, and then the rest are really small. So that's how my volume was still being better than theirs.
Yeah.
But I'm selling 20 sales a month, but how do I sell 10 sales a month, but sell something for 5 times more and make like twice as much money? You know, just work smarter because so
it was the same strategy as the first spot where you went for the most expensive package. Here you went again for the most expensive, the highest profit bearing product. I mean,
yeah.
probably the most intimidating for most people, but for you, it made sense. You're like, fuck it. This is the one that I want to go for every time.
Yeah. So I started using this strategy that worked for me like a month later into the business, or like 2 weeks later. I told the existing customers, because every time I go to existing customers, when you've had a sign for 20 years, sometimes you're pissed off that you paid so much in interest because you financed it. It's like, bro, that thing's $5,000. I spent $20,000. Like, screw you guys, you know? Yeah. Like, I'm so sorry. You know what? These guys, that was so shitty on their part. That was the finance company. Let me call my boss, like the factory, and see what they could do. You know, you don't have to buy anything. Don't worry. I'll be like, hey, you know what we could do? We could give you credit. You paid $17,000 or $15,000, right? He's like, yeah. So the factory sent me up here because you were grandfathered in since you've had our sign for so long.
Yeah.
What we could do is now we'll give you credit, $15,000 to buy something else with us, you know? Yeah. So you could have anything, and you could just, whatever the difference is, you could pay the difference and have that. So let me show you what I could do. And then, you know, I'll head out. I won't even waste your time. So I'm like, you know, did you ever see those digital ones? You know, those ones that you put specials on? And he's like, yeah, I've never seen those. They're too expensive. And I'm not spending any money, they say. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Because whenever I talk about those digital ones in their head, they're thinking it's like $30,000, $40,000. Yeah. It's $50,000, whatever the case is. So I would show them a video. I'd be like, look, this is one of our customers. This is a $100,000 sign. What I could do is this $100,000 sign, we could bring that down to like $45,000, $50,000, because if you let us advertise on it, if you let us advertise 1 out of 3 times, right, we're going to bring the cost down by 60%. Yeah. We have your credit, which is $15,000. Right? So now you have how much left? About $25,000, $30,000 left. Right? That's the price of the sign now. Yeah. It was about 100, dropped down to 40, and then his $15,000 credit, now it's 25 grand. And then I'm like, okay, so we have 2 options. You know, you could pay that up front, you could pay the 25 grand, or you could just put $6,000 down and pay $500 a month for the next 6 years. And they're like, okay, you know, so they're like, man, I don't think I could do that. I'm like, okay, what can't you do? Can you not do, you know, a monthly payment, or can you not do the deposit? They're like, no, I can't do that deposit. I don't have $6,000. I'm like, what? I understand. I'm like, so what do you have? Like, what is affordable? I'm like, I doubt I could do it, but what is? He's like, $2,000, you know, $2,000. The $2,000 deposit. So I'm like, okay, go ahead and give me the $2,000, and I'll go ahead and do the monthly payments for like $550 a month, and you go ahead and get the sign, you know? But the way how I'd make them do it is I would say, okay, what's your average sale like? They're like, my average sale is about $500. I'm like, okay, how many people are driving through these streets? There's about 50,000 drivers every day. So 50,000 drivers a day in 30 days is about $1.5 million, 1.5 million views. Yeah. 1.5 million views going like this, and your average sale is 500. So out of those 1.5 million, let's say 150, not 150, let's say 100. Would you at least say this sign will bring in about 20 customers a month? Yeah, I think it would bring 20 customers a month. Okay, so 20 customers a month, $500 a sale. How much is that extra revenue? Right. So he's like, that's $10,000 extra revenue. So I'm like, this $600, are you paying the $600? Or is it these customers that are bringing you this $10,000 extra dollars in revenue? He's like, it's the customers. So I'm like, okay, you know. Right.
So that was clever. I mean, I think that was smart to be able to look at the environment. Obviously, let the guy know that this investment is worth a future investment. And then it was clever to actually use like the idea of a applied credit being able to figure out what price point was too high and then say, well, what do you have? Because everyone's got to have some money, right? Obviously. So then you find out what they have, and then you kind of offset that by putting it back into the monthly payment. So this guy that hated your business and hated your company is still actually coming back to you, which is pretty clever and crazy and kind of funny. So I'm guessing these strategies and these techniques and all this shit ended up bringing you back up towards the top. So
Yeah.
again, towards the top, what's the equation again? Without getting into like exact numbers, right? So without getting into like the specific dollars that you were making or whatever, when you started getting up there, at what point did you say, okay, yeah, it's time for me to exit? Like, what was the reason for the exit, or what was sort of the thought process when you decided?
I felt like I was here for 5 years. My whole point of coming here was to make money via doing a business.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have the most skills possible to do a business, to know the most.
Yeah.
So I felt like after a year and a half or 2 years of working at this place, at the sign company, I kind of learned everything when it comes to selling something that was small. Like, I knew how to sell a lot of quantity. I know how to sell in quality. I know how to act proper and not get desperate in front of them.
Yeah.
Not get nervous, not start moving quicker. When they say yes, don't start celebrating, and they shouldn't see
Right. Right.
It should be like nothing changed once they said yes.
Right.
Tone, same everything, because that's what's going to get you to they're going to just back out right away when they say
Right.
Even when they say yes, 80% of the time, a lot of time, not with me, but like with reps that don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Back out,
Right. And I think to me, it feels like at this point now, I mean, based on the fact that you've had so many you've sold to businesses, to people that are walking down the street, to people in the mall, to people at Six Flags, like whatever the sort of the equation has been, it seems to me like the phone maybe wasn't the best environment for you, but it seems like in person, being able to talk to somebody face to face, having that opportunity to connect with them, you were able to find some way to relate to them, whether it was something in their grocery cart, guessing the ring size, whether it was bringing up somebody else's business when you were trying to go pitch them their business. You were finding some way to connect with all these people when you were trying to go in and make a pitch. And then the more success you found, the less anxiety you felt. But you needed to get at least 1 or 2 wins to bring those anxiety levels back down, right? I think you needed that. You needed something to kind of go in your favor, right? So I think that's another interesting conversation too, is about how you manage stress in those environments and like how you kind of deal with that when you're not like feeling right, or when you're like not getting those wins, because sometimes that is really tough, right? When you're like constantly like, man, when the fuck is this? Something's got to go my way. It's been too many months or too many weeks of me busting my ass, and it's just not, the sales aren't coming through, or the things aren't converting, or my pitch isn't working, or whatever it is. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of get over that hump, and then you kind of saw the other side of it. And then you decided that you were going to go run your own business. And that's why you came to America. I think you came to America with the mindset that you were going to have your own business. You're in the process right now of working on a water filtration company, right? Like that's kind of the primary area that you're focused in on right now, right?
Yeah.
And without getting into like the details of like the business itself and all that stuff, how has that experience been for you now, running a business, having employees? Again, only being 24, how does it feel different now from going from a sales side to now running a company and having your own company?
It's been pretty fun. It's at first, the first week, it was really intimidating because we didn't know, our job is basically just to like get leads. Once we get leads, we sell them the water filtration system.
Yeah.
So when we started the business, we weren't getting leads at first for the first couple of days.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, we have door knockers that are supposed to knock doors and stuff like that. So it was intimidating for the first week. It's been about 3-4 months now. So now it's been going pretty well.
Yeah. I think this is like, I think it's still so early in the journey. And now that you have like the virus kind of having an impact too. So it's kind of hard to like fully assess and see how this plays through all the way. But I think you learned some really important things in a really quick amount of time. And I think that I don't think anybody would bet against you succeeding. You know what I mean? And I think that we're all, we're all sort of vested. Shugs and Leela are home too now. But everyone's kind of vested in kind of seeing your success and seeing you kind of grow. And I think we're gonna have to probably carry this on some more after a few more months to see kind of what the filtration system looks like and how that kind of plays out and what like that journey is gonna look like too. Because there's still a lot of things to explore. It's just now that family's here and time's up. But I think, man, we're all so proud of you. We love seeing how good you've been doing in all these different areas. And I think the major takeaways for me were how you learned to kind of deal with the stress a little bit, how you learned to sell to different kinds of people, how you got over the anxiety and the idea of rejection, how you always knew shit could be way worse because of previous experiences or whatever. And I think that bullying, when you were really young, like helped you get over that quickly too, because then you started dealing with older kids at a much younger age. And as a result of being immersed or always being like the youngest in your class or whatever, skipping those grades, I think all those things have kind of played a really strong role. So I think a lot of people that watch this over time, when they see your story and they kind of see this take place, they're going to think it's fucking hilarious. And then they're going to also be, I think they're also going to be drawn to the fact that you got to bust your ass. You got to obviously put in the hours. And if a strategy isn't working, you got to tweak it. I think that's like another major takeaway from you. So, man, I'm like really glad that we got a chance to do this. And I know we're going to do this again at some point soon too. So yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for getting on.
Of course, man. Of course. It's been amazing.
All right, bro. Joe, we love you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, man. Love you too.
All right, bro. Peace.
Peace.